going to be talking about the purchase management module, or the supplier management module, I guess it's called. But in the supplier management, purchase management module, there is a few things. We have the regular supplier management section where you set up your and maintain your supplier information. We have the purchase order creation and PO suggestion section. There's also the requisition management for users that wants to electronically request material from a supplier to a job or for miscellaneous items needed around the shop floor. Supplier price lists are included in there. List, where you can purchase the same product for multiple suppliers with different prices. Purchase contracts. Buyer workbench are also included in there. Today, we're going to focus on the supplier price list, purchase contracts, blanket POs, and Kanban POs. Supplier price list. Why do you want to use it? Why are they great for you to use? Well, it's a really good tool if you have a part that you source from multiple suppliers, because you can add different quantity breaks. You can either do it by a price or by a percentage. Your suggestion will get your supplier price directly onto the PO line, so you don't have to remember which price was I'm going to get if I did this quantity break or if I did this quantity break. The other thing that it also is helpful for is if you do subcontractor information, you can use supplier price list there as well to get the correct price for anything that you are sending out. Any jobs or things that are going outside your business and then coming back in. One of the things that I think is the greatest with the supplier price list is that you can set up your effective dates, your expiry date and your effective date. By doing so, you can actually set up your price list ahead of time. So when that supplier gives you a notification that, hey, on September 1st, I am going to need to raise my prices because I have too much tariffs or whatever, instead of waiting till that time to then fix your prices, or remembering that, oh yes, I got to update all my prices at that time. Create a new supplier price list. Set it effective to that day in the future. Have one that you're using today. Set it to expire, and the new one will take effect. You don't have to do anything. All your POs that are being created for those future dates will then have the new prices included. The other thing, obviously, is the quantity breaks, right? Again, if you have a supplier that you work with that allows you to get or give you, whether it's a percentage quantity or an actual just a price for buying in multiples, add it in here so you don't have to remember it. No more spreadsheets, no more piece of paper that you're looking around for. And then I mentioned that, you can also put the price list on as a supplier. You also, in the price list, can specify if you need this to be your primary supplier or if it's an approved supplier. Switch over to purchase contracts. When you buy the purchase contract module, you do need to have the purchase contract module. So that'll be an add-on from Epicor to use the purchase contract functionality. That will allow you to buy inventory using a recurring schedule. That means you can set up your delivery schedule to repurchase material against the purchase order line with delivery dates, prices, and quantities. Then, so when the PO suggestion process runs, it converts the PO suggestions into these purchase schedule suggestions. A purchase schedule suggestion will then go through an approval process to create the actual purchase schedules. And once it's approved, then you can relate that contract purchase order, once it's approved, the related contract purchase order will automatically generate the line releases and add them to the schedule. And Epicor can have the ability to also pull the demand requirements for the part forward in time to the next delivery date within the kind of an established schedule. Additionally, if you change results in the demand quantity, you can be slotted to fall in the past due date. You can kind of pull that forward too. An example will be if you're having a delivery schedule where the dates falls on Monday and Thursday for the next 4 weeks. Well, today is Sunday, then potentially Monday moves to its past due date. Thursday will move to Monday, and next Monday will move to Thursday. So you kind of see it. It'll still follow the same delivery schedule. It'll just kind of move them if needed. You may or may not use that functionality. In order for you to use purchase contracts, you do need to set up a purchase contract schedule. And you start with that in the company configuration. In there, you will first define what the mode of the schedule, meaning a fixed schedule period means that demand of the requirements will not be pulled forward and it will stay with the date that's calculated. Alternatively, you can schedule forward one period where you would then allow your demand to be pulled forward into the next earlier delivery date if needed. That kind of will depend on your business. And then you also need to set up the supplier periodicity maintenance. That is the interval codes for deliveries. So it allows you then to set up daily. You can do a semi-weekly, so twice a week delivery. You can do a regular weekly. You can do a weekly but not on the last week of the month, because you need that for something you don't want to receive the parts in at the last week of the month, for instance. Or you can set it to the nth number of days, so that specific date or day of the month, so the 15th to 9th, whichever. Gives you the opportunity to do that as well. The other thing that you need to do is, if you were to use a purchase contract, your part has to be an inventory part in order to be ordered through the purchase contract functionality. Those inventory parts will need to be set up and will need to then be allowed on, put these periodicity schedules in. So you tell them, this is what I want on my first period. This is in case I do a multiple period, then you need to tell Epicor, I need 100 on Tuesday, I need 100 on Friday, or I need 100 every week. Those are the 6 scheduling period we just talked about in the periodicity settings. And then if you also have when you have a forecast, then the forecast will be used for the schedule. So then you can see how far in advance you can purchase, how far in advance your purchase schedules must be converted to your POs suggestions. So the process of creating a purchase contract is that you, first of all, you go in, you create your purchase order. I'll show you here in a little bit where you need to mark your purchase order then as a PO, as a contract purchase order. Remember, again, it must be an inventory part and you must have the part set up on a part schedule. The lines will then automate the purchase schedules with delivery dates, prices, and quantities. And the supplier shipment quantities are automatically calculated by the purchase schedule approval process that needs to run. And once the generate PO suggestion process for the purchase schedules are created, then the schedule will use that date for the PO suggestion. Suggestion schedule is kind of so there's a couple of different schedules that you will get out of when you run this. Your suggestion schedule is kind of the raw purchase order suggestion data. The adjusted schedule here is the same PO suggestion data, but that is after accounting for the information from the part and the supplier, kind of, for instance, the delivery date, the minimum order quantities, etc. And then lastly, you'll end up with the proposed schedule, which then is again the copy of the adjusted, but it's made available for you to approve. Are these the purchase schedules that I would now like to turn into contract purchase orders? And you have the ability, what's great is you have the ability to then do a batch all process or batch approve everything, or you can kind of do them one at a time. After you have your contract PO set up and you generate the purchase contracts, you set that up when you run MRP and you check the box to include contract PO parts, and you then also run the generate purchase schedule checkbox. All right, let's talk a little bit about blanket POs. Not a ton to talk about really on those. Those are fairly straightforward. You have a regular purchase order, standard purchase order. You want to link that to the part so it becomes a blanket PO. You create a new part or you use an existing part. Make sure you obviously have a new purchase order. And then in your warehouse details section, you will add your blanket PO and the line to your part. So each time you want to purchase with that part, you can then use the same PO over and over again. All right, Kanban POs. I thought it may be good to just kind of give a little quick level set as to what is Kanban, what does it mean, before we start talking about the process of Kanban POs. Kanban was a Japanese word for visual card or signal that was originally developed by Tahichi Ono at Toyota. They were using these visual signals, often cards, to manage and track the production. It's widely used in the lean manufacturing, and it's also used in the kind of just-in-time in production. That's in the just-in-time production is really where that's what Toyota started with their Kanban system. Kanban can be electronic or it can be a physical card. A physical card could be you sit it out on the floor or in the warehouse. You have a card on the rack that you have your parts, and then when you get to a certain point in that stack of boxes that you have, there's a card saying, "Oh, I got to take this to purchasing because now I need more." That's one way to signal it. Another way is within your operation, same thing, right? You can on the production floor, you can also use those cards. There's also an opportunity to do this electronically, which then it's going to look at quantities on hand in a bin, and that's what's or in a warehouse, and that's what's going to trigger what the next operation or the next action that needs to happen from that card. The Kanban system will allow you to kind of operate more of a pull system, whether it's in a production or in a purchasing environment that's triggered by an action that happened before, and now it triggers you to do something. So how does it work? Toyota used Kanban cards to signal when to produce or when to deliver materials to their production system. Kanban in the manufacturing environment will help optimize your production flow, reduce your waste, improve efficiency by visualizing the workflow and managing your process. It promotes, again, that pull system where everything is triggered by something, which then turns into a faster turnaround times, continuous improvement, and better collaborations among your team. So Kanban in Kinetic, how does that work? And for Kanban in Kinetic, you have a new purchase order. It will be generated based on settings that you set up in part entry. And I'll show you those settings in part entry here in a second on the next slide. The process for the Kanban goes, again, you go into part entry, you set up your purchase part, you mark it as a purchase replenishment part. This gets confusing in Kinetic quickly because what Epicor did was they used the same form, the same functionality, whether you are using it for a purchase replenishment Kanban or you're using it for an inventory/manufacturing replenishment Kanban. The drop-down box is what's going to trigger which type it is. The form is the same, the setup is the same place, whether it's purchasing or inventory or manufacturing. So just keep that in mind. It was confusing for me in the beginning, just took a little bit to get used to. Then you go ahead and you add in the PO number, the line number, and part entry. And Kanban works in the fact that you have an automatic Kanban process. It just runs in the background. Actually, you don't have to even schedule it. It's triggered where the process will check to see what do you have on hand, goes through and check for your replenishment point at the time a new PO is automatically created if it goes below that point. Here's our screen that I wanted to talk about. So in the warehouse details section of your part entry, you have a drop down for the warehouse replenishment. I think this is a little poorly. I wish it would maybe be changed the name of this section because this can either be for the warehouse, you can use it in manufacturing or you can use it for purchasing. So in this case, we would set it up as a purchase Kanban. Your initial quantity or your minimum quantity is what do you want on hand to start, plus your threshold, your safety quantity. So in this case, I'm asking at 15, and it all takes the minimum and the safety together. That becomes your replenishment point. So in my case here, that's 15. My bin or my storage location can only hold 200. So I don't really want to go further than 200. But I'm okay. Every time I get down and it needs to trigger something, 200 sounds great. That's the max I can get to. And then you will need to set your replenishment or your Kanban quantity. So this would be the multiples of what you want on your releases. If you are so low on your inventory that you need to buy 100, it's going to give you 2 releases of 50. Replenishment quantity will then be in 50. And then the other thing that you want to do here is you obviously want to create or attach your PO number and your line. One thing I didn't do that I should have done was that I didn't I didn't show in here. So what you do have also then in Epicor is that you have a Kanban monitor. You have a Kanban warehouse bin monitor and you have a Kanban monitor. One of them will look at your bin specifically for like your manufacturing type of inventory process. The other one would look at it from a purchase order perspective. And so in there, you will then see, you'll be able to kind of see, you'll be able to see all the parts that you've set up on Kanban. It'll list all these different settings that you have, and it would list the current quantity that you're at. So you can manage your Kanban POs that way. So this will be the Kanban warehouse monitor. And so in this case, you'll be able to see your part number, the location, what do you have on hand, what is your replenishment level. Here's what it's requesting. Currently, right now, you are at a negative fill percent, meaning you can't fill. What's really nice is these the color shading that's also in here, right? Because it can draw your attention quickly to the parts, or the ones that are zero on hand, and you're like, oh, I'm in trouble. If I have somebody wanting to order this HH part, I know that I need to do something. You also have, like I said, this is more for the ones out on the floor. Let me find the other one. But you are able to do it by your bin location, your Kanban requests that will go through these will go through your material request queue. So if you're using your MES or a handheld device, you can direct your workflow in that case for how to get these picked and get them to the correct part of the warehouse. Yeah, so this would be the bin one where we go down to the specific bin level. This is the one that this Kanban bin monitor is the one you want to use if you're doing Kanbans for. On the production floor, the Kanban monitor is the one that you want to use when you're looking for purchase orders. One of the things that you would do is, I think it's in here, you might just have to actually go ahead and get that added, is you want to see the PO number, because you'd like to be able to then see, have I gotten my PO placed? We don't have everything set up correctly here right now, but yeah, then your PO will show here. It would automatically trigger a release as soon as the quantity goes below the replenishment level. So if this part here, if the quantity on hand goes below 1,000, it will trigger and it will create a new PO release line for 2,000. The process will go through. It will automatically unapprove your PO, add the new line, and off it goes. You would still need to send it to the supplier. Obviously, there's ways where you can put triggers in Epicor to have that happen automatically if you want to, but it is created for you, which means one less thing you have to sit in and type in Epicor to create the line. It's already there for the release. It's there for you. All you need to do is send it to the supplier.